start the session, I just want to know, we are talking today about the POSH. It is sexual harassment of women at the workplace. How to prevent them, how to prohibit them, and how to redress before the committee. So this act is passed the year 2013. So for every act, there is a history. So in related to the POSH, what is the history is all about? And I don't want the sessions to be very as a lecturer. I don't want to put those sessions. I want everyone to know what is POSH is all about, as well as let it be a very interactive sessions too. So I'm looking forward a few answers or any questions to be done, or you can just forward to me. Okay. So to continue with the POSH, as I told you, to prevent or to protect the women, not only the women, now the men and the LGBTs also is included in the POSH Act of 2013. So what is the history of this POSH? How the POSH has come into the existence? So you can see a lady called Banwari Devi. So this lady, Banwari Devi, the year of 1992, in a state of Rajasthan, Jaipur, 55 kilometers away from Jaipur. She's from the Dalit woman, a low background and the downtrodden place. She was fighting against the child marriage. So when she was carrying a rally against the child marriage along with her husband, she was raped by the affluent people of the Rajasthan state. So what happens? This Banwari Devi, to seek justice, she goes to the nearby police station to lodge a complaint against these affluent people who was raped her when she was carrying a rally for the for the girls who should not be get married below the age of the major. So she was against to that. When she went to the police station to lodge a complaint, her complaint was not taken on file. So what happens after 52 hours with the help of the NGOs? Okay, this complaint was taken to file, and later part what happens was like she was asked to rip her clothes and stay naked. And this was being observed by the police of the police station people of the men. And I am not sure how far many people know. When you go and lodge a complaint, a woman lodge a complaint, only a woman police can conduct an inquiry or interrogation. So this is what the law speaks is all about. For her, what happens in her case, this was taken an inquiry by the men police and they asked her to rip her clothes and stay naked. So to get a relief and remedy, she was forced to do so, and later a complaint was taken. And this was taken to a nearby magistrate court, and the magistrate, after conducting the legal proceedings for after long years, and he has given a verdict that among 13 people, 8 were being acquittal, and the rest of the 5, they say on the ground that a woman cannot be raped in front of a husband, and the punishment was given to these 5 acquittal people, the convictors, but not the punishment of the rape and less than that. They're not quite happy with the order passed by the magistrate. So a committee called Vishaga Committee, these people, they take this matter, the Banwari case, to the Supreme Court with a 3 judges bench. Then what happens, after this matter is taken and filed before the Supreme Court, the 3 judges bench. It is called the Vishaga, another state of Rajasthan. The 6th Supreme Court case 241 AR 1997, Supreme Court 3011. And after this was being conducted, the PPT is not visible.
It's visible.
It's visible. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So what happens after this matter comes to before the Supreme Court, the 3 judges bench, finally they passed a verdict stating that there was a rape conducted and the person who was being acquitted was given a punishment under the rape case. So later part what they pass a decree stating that the gender equality should be there. There should be no abuse and it will settle the law. And they also say that the fundamental right of the Indian Constitutions 14, 15 and 21, they say that everyone is equal before law and everyone has got the dignity to live in this country. And they've got all right to protect their life and the personal liberty to live in. So later part, what happens? This Vishaka committee was named as Vishaka committee only. And here they also giving a guidelines. These judges are giving a guidelines that every woman working in a workplace, she have got an equal right to work over there. And it is a mandatory law that they should have a safe and secure environment and free from sexual harassment. And this is what the judgment talks about. And this is how the Vishaka committee that is related to sexual harassment is coming to existence. And later, but what happens? This judgment is that is called the Vishaka guidelines judgment that is passed to the central government, and they're appointing a judiciary committee headed by Justice S. Verma, is a former judge of the Supreme Court. And related to that, this matter goes to the parliament, and they have a discussion, and few amendments was taken place. Before the POSH, like the Vishaka committee, we had only the rape cases under the criminal law. So we don't have POSH Act those days. So what they call as any rape cases or any harassment related to the sexual, that falls only under criminal law. Now what happens after this Verma committee, the Justice Verma committee is formed, the cabinet ministers on February 2013, what they are giving suggestions that we'll take this Verma committee into consideration. And then the criminal law ordinances 2013 as Amendment Act. So now in the year of 2013, the POSH committee is coming to existence. This is what the law says. Hello? I could hear someone speaking in the... Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
Fine, please. So now let me talk about the sexual harassment. What is the sexual harassment talks about? The sexual harassment 2N of the law states that, of this act states that any physical contact and advances, or if there is any demand or request for sexual favor, and that is related to any color remarks and showing any pornography, and any offenses related to the derogatory pictures, cartoons, any unwelcome physical behavior, or it can be verbal or non-verbal, or it can be subtle also, that is sexual in nature, all covers under section 2N of the POSH Act. So what is the prominent of the sexual in nature? Derogatory comments based on sex, gender, and the materials related to the sex in nature, that can be visual or pornography, and any sexual written materials such as that in terms of sending SMS or MMS or to WhatsApp or through any modes of communication, and passing any sarcastic comments on clothing, physical, private life, and falsely accusing the victim, spreading any rumors, tarnishing the name and the reputations, and defaming their thing. All this comes under prominent features of the sexual harassment, which covers under this act. So as you've been grown up and mature enough, you know what is sexual harassment. I need not give any example of sexual harassment, but though I can list out few things. When you look at a person, okay, when you do some kinds of sound that is related to sex in nature, when you show any images related or videos or any objects related to the sex in nature, any unhealthy comments, arguments, jokes over the women's body or about their clothing, any demands or threat in sex favors that is going to lose a jobs, or you may also be threatened that you'll be losing a job if you're not reciprocating my point to what I am looking for, touching them or leaning over the body, and those things comes under sexual harassment examples. So what are the forms of sexual nature at the workplace? There are two things where we talk about now. What are the forms? Quid pro quo and hostile environment. This quid pro quo, this means that, this for that. For example, when you're the person in the office, when you're you are the reporting person to him, and when he or she takes advantage, and they say that when the demand of the sexual is accepted by you, then you get promotions, you get a performance appraisal, you get loans, and you get some advances. So you get promotions and all those things when you accept my offer. When you in topsy-turvy, when you reject my offer, then you get depromotions, and your name and fame will be defamed. You'll be tarnished, your reputation will be tarnished, and you'll be having there'll be no hike in salary, and writing about the personal comments of them, and then transferring them from one office to another office. So this is what is called quid pro quo. This happens recently in many places where I go for the inquiry. Next comes the hostile work environment. What is called hostile work environment? See, as soon as you get up in the morning, like you should have an energy that you have to go work, have good atmosphere in working there. When you feel that that atmosphere is not very comfort and cool zone to work, when you feel that that it's so humiliating, that is going to affect your health and the safety purpose, do you
Rati, 1 minute, hold on. So can you just confirm that whether Mrs. Rati voice is audible? Can you confirm? The participants, Batman Priya, Uma,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes, sir, it's audible, sir.
She's
Audible.
audible
Yes,
and
You are
it's
able to
PPT
see
is
the
also.
screen? You are able to see the screen?
Yeah,
Yes,
screen is
yes.
also visible. Audio is also
Okay.
clear.
Okay, because Mr. Rajesh is finding a problem, so that's why. Okay, right, okay. Okay, sorry, please continue. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you. So, who are all covered under this act? Who are the people covered under this act? They can be full-time employees or temporary employees. They can be a contractual workers, a daily wage employee, a probationer or an intern, a trainee, housekeeping workers, security workers, a volunteers with or without stipend or salary, and any person representing to the client's place or to the vendor place. All these people are covered under this law. So we talk about the workplace, where we have to give a safety and a safe environment free from sexual harassment. What does workplace actually mean? The workplace is nothing but any person, any employee who is going to visit a place for his employment or her employment that includes transportation provided by the employer, the place where they carry out their work. It can be organized sector or it can be an unorganized sector too. It can be a government organization, it can be a private organization, it can be a sports institution, facility centers, hospitals, or nursing homes, dwelling or houses. It also may go extend to office parties that has been conducted by the office, off-sites, outbound training, client meetings, or training sessions, travel for office purpose in India or outside India. Any place where one visits in the course of due of employment. All these people, where they sit and work, that is called a workplace. So, employer, who's an employer? Employer can be defined in different terms in different departments. Here, the workplace of the central or state government or the local authority body. Here, he is an employer. In private organization, a person who, for the management level, or who supervises or controls. In the private place, here the person is called the employer. In dwelling house, for example, in a house, a maid, where we pay for a maid, we become the employer for her. So where she's carrying out any work at our home, when we pay their salary, then we become the employer at our home. So this is called the employer definition. So what are the duties of the employer? The employer duties are the most important thing where he plays a very vital and important role in case of the sexual harassment. So what are the duties of an employer? He has to ensure that the environment created for the employee should be safe and secure. And next thing, he should also ensure to the committee people that the display of the POSH committee, the names of the POSH committee, and what are the penal consequences when any harassment has taken place should be displayed on the office rooms. He has to create, or he has to ensure that the committee is giving or providing workshops, awareness programs should be organized at irregular intervals of time. And the facility should be given to the internal committee people, the local committee people, when any complaint is raised in conducting the inquiry. The most important thing, when any complaint is raised before the committee, it has to ensure that the attendance of the complainant, the respondent is the other side of the party, and any witnesses, therefore, should attend or assist them in securing the 100% attendance in time of conducting the inquiry. And apart from that, he should also ensure that any complaint raised in the internal committee that has to reach the information and that has to be taken under this law, whether it has been, the advocacy code of proceedings is being duly followed or not. And if a woman chooses, see, there are two types of things here I want to tell you. The sexual harassment, the gravity of the offense depends on the gravity of the offense. We have to ensure whether it falls under civil or criminal. In case the matter falls under criminal, then it comes under the IPC code of 45/1860. And then he should also ensure that if the woman or the victim wants to go before the court, he has got all the responsibility being an employer to initiate action and to support them. In case if they find that he is filing guilty, then immediately they have to initiate on the ground of the misconduct under the service rules. He has to monitor the timely submission, whether the report prepared or submitted by the internal committee is being monitored properly and it has been duly submitted on time. The employer should also aware that the policy is in detail and the policy contains all the informations into that. He should also create awareness in oriental issues or oriental program, as I told you. And the complaints committee should ensure it has to constitute like a POSH policy, and it has to be written form, not in the printed form. It has to be written in it. The most important thing, like nowadays I can see that when people call for me that there's a sexual harassment organization, the first thing what I ask them is that whether the organization is constitute a committee or not. They say, yes, ma'am, we constitute a committee. We have a committee and we have members to the committee. But when you get into the report, we can see that they have formed the committee, but no proper advocacy code of rules, guidelines has been followed by them. This doesn't make sense in constituting a committee, because constituting a committee is alone is not that you have constituted like a POSH policy or act in your organization. It includes whether you have submitted the annual returns or the quarterly returns, the half-yearly returns to the concerned department called the DU or the labor office or to the collector office. That is the most important. Where I have to get the acknowledgement receipt. Where they fail to do that. So, as soon as any harassment is taken place, that issue has to be reported to the director immediately if it's going to be the private or the public limited company. If a company fails to constitute a written order of POSH policy or a committee, then a penalty will be levied on them, the costing to rupees 50,000 rupees. Second time, again they fail to constitute a committee. If they get caught by the concerned department, the penalty amount will be 1 lakh. They'll be giving a third chance. No, there is no chance at all for the third time. When you fail again to constitute a committee and follow the procedures, the guidelines according to the act, then if they find that is the second time you failed it, and the third time, ensure that the license of the organization will be cancelled. What are the employer's responsibility here? As I told you, as I already explained you, we have to see that they have to create an appropriate working conditions for the employees, and they should not treat the employees as a sexual object. And if the third party, he has to ensure that we enters into the organization, or when our employee goes to the third party organization, he has to ensure that our employee should not be insulted, or the outrage of the modesty of the women should be protected. And above all, he should ensure that the complaints committee should be well established and known to the all employees in the organization. Now coming about the internal committee. So I was talking about the committee. What is the committee is all about? The committee is a written order that will be drafted by the organization. Before drafting by the organization, they have to ensure that there should not be any flaws, and all the guidelines which is being constituted by the under the constitution by the act should be fulfilled in the policy. Here you need a experienced advocate to ensure that the policy covers related to the sexual harassment. Here the committee should have a minimum of 3 members. The first is the chairperson. The chairperson, or here we call it as the presiding officer. The chairperson should absolutely 100% be a woman, a senior level person of an employee. Again, I want to make it a point here. There are few organizations, they call me, madam, my wife, she is also a chairman to this organization. So, since she is a chairman, can I have my wife as a chairman to the committee? No. An employee alone can be a chairperson in the organization and she must be a senior person. And this is a thumb rule. The second thing is they should have 2 members. One can be a male and one can be a female. In case if it's going to be 2 women, the majority, then that is well and good. So these 2 members ensure that they should have a legal knowledge or they should have experience in handling these harassment, sexual harassment related cases. In case if they are going to be a social worker, fine. The third person here is external member. The external member can be an NGO or any person who works, a committed person for the cause of a woman who is familiar with sexual harassment can be taken as external member. But nowadays, why the organization is looking forward for a legal background? The reason is that any matter, any harassment can be abuse or any harassment, when it comes onto a table for mediation and conciliation, then the NGO people or the persons related to the experience in these fields can handle it. When the matter goes for the appeal out of table, when the matter goes to the court, when the matter goes to the police station, when a person who's handling an inquiry, they are not professionally handling the inquiry. That report, what it has been submitted to the before the court of law, where we have to face a problem where the reputation also matters, counts a lot here. Always remember, when in the cases, the sexual harassment cases, we will not be aware how far the case goes beyond our hands. Many HR they think, or many committee members they think, no, they can handle themselves. Yes, that is right. You can handle because you got a couple of experience, but you will not aware what kind of person is in the opposite side of yours, how the matter that goes to the appeal before the station or to the court. That is not predictable. So always ensure that here I always give my committee people, when I give for a training, I ensure them that when you get a complaint, ask them to put it in writing by the complainant. Because of emotional, because of sentiments, don't ever carry away. Because unless until you don't have a complaint copy in writing on your table, in future, when the when you have a problem, we have to face a dire consequences. The first thing the court or the police station or even the respondent asks is for the complaint copy. Please let me know what is a complaint about me is all about. When you don't have a complaint copy on the table in written form signed by the concerned complainant, you will be put into suit. Next is, I talk about, see, here I just want to remind you, what is internal committee? I was talking about the internal committee. When an organization have more than 10 employees, it can be a women can be 10 or the men can be 10, or it can be a mixture of both the women as well as the men. Now it can be also into the LGBTs also. Any person who is more than 10 employees in an organization, then the internal committee is a must in the organization. They have to form a policy. If employees is less than 10, then comes the local complaints committee. Nowadays, they don't call it as a complaints committee, local or internal complaints committee, because the complaint, they think that it's a negativity. Now, we call this a internal committee, external committee, and we call this like local committee. This is how we call them nowadays. So here in local committee, when the employees less than 10 in your organization, the people are working less than 10, then no, as usual, as I told you, the chairperson should be a woman, and there must be a member, and the member also should be a woman. There must be working in the block, tehsils as a ward, and 2 members, and among 2 members, one can be a men and one can be a woman. And they should have a sound knowledge in handling the harassment, sexual harassment, and legal knowledge is an added advantage. So when it comes to external member, as I told you, the external member can be a welfare officer or a welfare handling related to the harassment of sexual nature, or any social welfare officer handle of both the women and child development in the district. So probably also a legal advisor here. And apart from that, one nominee here will be a woman who belongs to SC or ST or the minority group that will be notified by the central government here. So internal local committee here, as I told you, the committee should have a member and they can hold an office only for 3 years, not exceeding 3 years. If any member or the presiding officer, the chairperson, if you find guilty or any disciplined person related to the sex in nature or harassment has taken place, and they are also one of the root cause for the harassment, and then you have to remove them immediately. Again, a committee should be reconstituted in the IC or the LC. If you have a branch apart from here, you have a you have a head office here, you have a branch office anywhere in India or anywhere some other state or international level, then you should have a constituted committee is a must. So what are the functions of these committees? That they have to ensure that he has to educate these employees about this issue, and any complaint is being addressed to them, they have to take the complaint on file or a legal manner. They have to conduct an inquiry. And we call these committee as a quasi-judiciary body. It means that they have got equal powers of the court. They have got right to summon them, and they have to ensure that the attendance must be there. And they also have got all right to call for the evidences, the documents, sometimes to testimony that. So these are the functions of the committee. Who can complain and where the complaint can be lodged? As I said, we have a complaints committee in the organization where there is less than 10 employees or more than 10 employees. Who can complain? In case the victim is physically incapable, then who can lodge a complaint? In that case, the complainant's relative can lodge a complaint here in case of physical incapacity. And the co-worker who is working along with the victim. Else, the matter reaches the National Council for Women or State Council Commission for Women. And these officers can also handle this. Any person who has got knowledge about the incident, they know what happened in the organization. They can also file or lodge a complaint, but as I told you, in writing. Next, when the victim becomes mentally incapable, then who can lodge a complaint? The complainant's relative, the complainant's friend, a special educator, a qualified psychiatrist or physiologist, psychologist, any guardian, or if she's receiving any treatment or care under any authority who knows about this case. A person who has got knowledge about this case, working along with the victim in a written form. So apart from that, in case the complainant or the victim is dead, and who can lodge a complaint? In this case alone, in the death of the person, the victim, only the legal heirs alone can lodge a complaint in the written form. Apart from these three, physical incapable, mental incapable, the death of the person, apart from all this, who can lodge a complaint is that the person who has got knowledge and the complaint is unable to file the complaint. The person who has got knowledge about the incident, apart from all these people, can write it, put in writing, and can, on behalf of her, can lodge a complaint. What should the complaint contain in it? The complaint should have a content, the descriptions of the incidents, date is a must, timing, a respondent name, and what is the relationship between the parties in the organization or wherever the incident has taken place. This is the most important part of the act. For every act, for every offenses, under every act, they say that we have got a limitation period. We call it a time frame timelines as per the act. What is it? For any example, when it's going to be a civil case in nature, when it's going to be a criminal case in nature, or there's any motor vehicle accident cases, or any other cases, we have a time limit. Before the time law, within the time limit, time frame, we call it as a limitation period. The matter has to be reached to the court of law. So here, as I told you, the committee, the complaints committee plays a very vital role. You have made any flaws here that is going to affect the not only the complainant as well as the organization reputation is there in the hands of the members of the committee. The first thing, any complaint raised, ensure that that complaint given by the complainant should be within 3 months of the last incident. For example, the incident is taken place in the month of January. The complaint can be taken in the month of March end. Can you get me? This is the most important thing, the timelines as per this act. So, madam, people say, madam, the problem has arisen in the month of December. She came and gave the complaint, and later part, no, she came and asked me, like she was complaining me that she has been harassed, and she left it, madam. Again, she came in the month of February. Again, she's asking me, again, the person is targeting me and abusing me. I cannot tolerate whether the complaint is taken. The complaint can be taken into consideration. So the first complaint she has given in the month of December. The second complaint she's given in the month of February. So now she's coming in the month of April and reporting to you whether you can take the complaint or not. Yes, you can take the complaint because the last complaint what she has put it in writing is the month of February. So from February, the last incident what has taken place in her life, the victim's life, from that date, from the day within 3 months, the complaint is maintainable under this act. Next, as soon as the person has given a complaint in writing, what complaint she has given in, like, it can be his or her, the victim is in writing, the complaint in writing, that paper should take a copy of it and has to be sent to the respondent notice within 7 days of receiving the complaint, within 7 days. And the respondent, the other side of the person, should give a reply within 10 days of the working days. And then the committee has to conduct an inquiry within 90 days. That report has to be submitted to the concerned ICC or LCC, to the employer or to the any officer within 10 days. As soon as you finish your inquiry, within 10 days, the report has to be submitted to the concerned authority. Then the report which is being submitted to the concerned employer or to the IC people or the LC people, that recommendation or the implementation should be taken by the employer or the other reporting other authorities within 60 days. And apart from that, when the complainant feels that it is unbiased, fine. When they feel that it is discrimination taken place and they're not happy with the action whatever taken, and he or she feels that is injustice and no proper relief and remedy has reached them, then they can go for an appeal within 90 days. What is meant by appeal? Appeal means they can go to the station or to the court. That has to be taken care only by the employer. He has to give 100% support because the victim is an employee of his organization. So I was talking about the limitation period within 3 months. If the matter exceeds 3 months, even 1 day, the matter within 3 months, it is a third month and 1 day it happens. So the expiry, what we call the expiry of a day. Please do not entertain or encourage such kind of complaints. And as I told you, when the complaint is lodged before the committee and you're conducting an inquiry, ensure that the complainant and the respondent and there's any witnesses should be present, giving you the proper regular attendance. In case you feel that there is no proper attendance given by the complainant or by the respondent or by the witnesses, 3 consecutive hearings, then you can issue an ex parte order. What is ex parte order? In the absence or if they are not appearing before the inquiry, you can issue an ex parte order and close the complaint or the other side complaint or the complaint raised by the respondent, since they are not been present, you can issue them the ex parte order. And what does the formalities to be conducted over here? Means that when an ex parte order is given stating that you are absenting for the 3 consequent hearings, we'll give you in advance 15 days of time. Please be present for the enquiry. If you fail to do present for the enquiry, since you have been absenting for all the 3 consecutive hearings, then you will be considered the ex parte person to this concern. There is a famous saying that Maunam Sammadhathukku Ariguri. It means that if you're not appearing before the court will declare that you are into an act of committing a crime. So therefore, an ex parte order can be issued by your side to the concerned person who is absenting themselves, and after issuing the ex parte order before 15 days in advance, the person decides or the person is not appearing, you can close the file in favor of the person who is representing the matter and has given the proper evidence to you along with the witnesses. And the most important thing is that any evidences or any witnesses, any complaint taken by you, by the complainant, from the complainant side or from the respondent side, ensure that has to be kept into confidentiality. That is very important. The prohibitions of the publications is very important. Publication is prohibited here. In case it has been published, then you have to face the penalty. And apart from that, as I told you, if there's going to be any appeal, you can recommend for the appeal. This is the enquiry process at a glance. What I explained to you, I put it in a chart. That's it. And when there is enquiry, I told you, within 90 days, the enquiry has to be closed down. And during the 90 days or not 90 months, I'm talking about 90 days, 3 months. So apart from talking about the civil court, criminal court, IPC sections, apart from that, how can we consider this matter? How can we, when there's a civil wrong, when there's going to be what we call a tort. Tort means a very small wrongdoing. Giving a love letter or like asking the person that I love you, all this comes under very civil in nature. It's going to be a very small wrongdoing here. So when you find that that's a tort here, call for the person and ask them to, when you receive a complaint from the concerned complainant, call the other person, ask him or her to put it in verbal writing, give them a verbal warning to them, counsel them, educate them, and the most important thing, you can also appoint your neutral conciliator to resolve this problem. But ensure that there must be 100% no monetary settlements at all. If the complainant has any other choice apart from that, what like a way of conciliation process you are undergoing, you can also take the choice of the complaint, what they are looking for, what they are required for. So as I told you, for the purpose of testimony or clarification, the committee has got all rights to summon as n number of times. Cross-examination can be conducted on the witnesses, but not directly, but in a written form. Enquiry. What is the process that conduct an enquiry? During the enquiry, interview the complainant, respondent, and any witnesses. List down the events what had happened. Find the fact of the case, but ensure that it should be a very fair play. It should be very confidential. At the same time, there should not be any discrimination. Depends upon the attitude of the person, the way they dress upon, and the way like they get good names, name, fame in the organizations. Don't ever, based on the presumption, assumption, don't ever evaluate a person until you conduct a proper inquiry about the person. Enquiry process, as I told, it should have a principle of natural justice. Both the parties should be heard, both the sides. When there is any absenteeisms, issue them ex parte order. During the time of inquiry, do not accept any legal practitioners from the outside by the complainant side or from the respondent side or by the witnesses. You have got all rights to conduct an inquiry without an advocate. Do not entertain not only the advocates, but also relatives or the kith and kin inside the organizations when you conduct an inquiry. Maintain confidentiality. There should be no prejudice. And there should be no discrimination. As I told you, these three important points to be noted down when you talk about natural justice or talking about natural justice. What is natural justice? It means that both should be heard. Hearing on one side, that is contempt. And you have to have a fair, a partial inquiry. People should have a good faith in you. And when you pass orders, the orders should be reasonable orders. I was telling you about the interim measures. What are the interim measures? After getting a request from the women or for the complainant or from the men or any other person who's a victim to the case, okay, let it be put it in writing. And after getting in writing, make it very confidential and later part, supervise their activities. The supervision is the most important over here. In case the complainant feels that she or she wants to go for a transfer, or the respondent wants to go for the, not respondent, the complainant wants to go for a transfer, go for a transfer. The complainant says that seeks remedy that the respondent wants to go for a transfer, put them for the transfer. When they want any leave, you can grant leave. As I told you, 3 months of period until the inquiry has been closed down. You can give the complainant on leave based on the salary should not be deducted. Recommendations. If it is proved, what are the recommendations you can give to the employer? The committee members, after conducting an inquiry, what are the kind of recommendations you can give to the employer? In case the allegations is proved, based on the service rules, as per your appointment letter or the norms of the organizations, whatever you followed up, under the misconduct, you can give them the recommendations to the employer. It can also be written apology or a warning letter based on disciplinary proceedings or the actions taken by the committee to the employer. Reprimand, withhold their promotions. There should not be any increase in that pay, no increments. You can also recommend the employer after conducting an inquiry to give a counseling to them. What is community service? That is called a CSR. When the complaint goes for the appeal before the police station, get a CSR. That's a very important thing. And you can also terminate the other side of the person when they find guilty from the services. You can also claim for the financial damages to provide to the aggrieved party. So all these factors, you can give us a recommendation. And apart from that, I've last time I've given the additional recommendations to be addressed underlying the factors. It means that these are the recommendations you give it to the employer. In case you find that you need additional recommendation apart from that, we will leave it to you to recommend on base of their experiences. At the same time, if we need recommendations from the external member, there are a few recommendations haven't been providing to the employer apart from the recommendations provided by the committee, because we are there in these field for more than 15 years of experience. The recommendations have been taken by the employer from our side too. So if the organization is looking for any recommendation from the external member or the legal advisor, they can also, but the person should be an external member. Not being an external member, he cannot take recommendations from their advocate or from the social welfare people or any NGOs from the outside.